Good evening, everyone. In a new format today, we have brought ourselves over to the mighty YouTube, and we will today stream about saddles. We will talk a little bit about fitting, a lot about sitting, I suppose. That's as we are wont to do. And we will show a lot of pictures, and we will show a saddle or two, or maybe even three, live in our studio today. And I think that I'm going to have to hand it over to you in the beginning. Today?
Okay.
Yes, because hey, this is what you know.
No, there were. It's not me but some of our students.
Yes.
Asked me.
Yep.
What we thought about saddles, and I'm like, we're not saddle fitters. We are just trainers, but we have some experience. So we were. I promised them to find or to say in the stream what we thought about different saddles and how to sit in them, how to fit them, where to put them on the horse. And there are lots of questions. For instance, where to put the saddle on the back of the horse, and not to put it too far forward or too far back, or yeah. Oh yeah, that was nice. So we have some pictures and a few videos. Not so many videos today. I'm not quite sure if shall we start with the anatomy of the horse?
Start with the skeleton and see what happens.
Yeah, 0362. That is a drawing that is made by our daughter.
Yeah.
It's nice, isn't it?
Ah, it's a nice horse. Looks like an all right horse to me. What do you want to say about this? What are your experiences with saddles and questions and stuff like that?
It's first and foremost, it's where to put the saddle. And when you look at the construction here, there is some weak points, at least one, and that is the lumbar back behind the ribs and in front of the pelvis.
Yeah. Can I have an idea in there. Can I call it a place where you can affect change to a greater degree? So not as much a weakness.
A strength.
It can be a strength as well. Mm-hmm. But it is possible to influence the shape of the horse to quite a large degree in that area of the spine.
Yep.
And that is the main idea about it, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that means that if you put a saddle there, you will influence it somehow.
True.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not to the positive,
yeah,
but
get to the point.
We'll get there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So my point is, it's not as much a weakness as it is just more malleable. There's more possibility.
I've not
for
the pleasure
changing.
of understanding you, dear.
No.
Did you want to say where that strength was, or did you want me to?
That place is the lumbar spine.
But you don't want to put the saddle there.
No. What I'm saying is that is the area of the back that is the most malleable, changeable, possible to do something with.
And also weak. Okay.
No, I don't think the horse is weak in the lumbar spine. I think it is able to change the lumbar spine into a position that will either help the horse or not help the horse.
Yeah. So why don't you put the saddle there then? Because many people ask, why don't you put the saddle there when the horse is supposed to carry from behind?
Because it is likely that the horse will sway its back from that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But, that is one question that people say to me is that why do we put the saddle so far to the front when it's when the horse is supposed to carry the weight from behind? Mm-hmm. And that is something that we have we've been talking about that, I think, in all our streams.
Yep.
So I don't want to go very much into that, a little we should say, but we're gonna get to that when we come to the videos, I guess. But if we can go back to the illustration again, the anatomy,
Same drawing?
skeleton. What I see is the shoulder blade, the scapula, the big size spoon thingy that is between the neck and the rib cage.
Yep.
This is the front leg that is connected to the rib cage with only muscle. Only muscle. There is no joint that connects the front leg to the body of the horse. So the horse is sort of hung up in between his shoulder blades. And this shoulder blade seems to be very much in the place where you put the saddle. And many people say, many people with authority as well say that you should put the saddle so far back so it doesn't get in conflict with the shoulder blade. And that is sort of a truth with there are many nuances here, because one, you should not sit in a way that you squeeze with your knees so that the flaps of the saddle will become too tight for the shoulder to move. And also, when the horse moves over the back, the movement from the hindquarters and the energy from there will lift the spine up from behind in a sort of wave-like movement, and lift the withers, that is the spine between the shoulder blades, up out of the shoulder blades for each step. And then the saddle will not interfere with the shoulder blade.
Yeah. And that will happen if the horse is allowed to not sag in its lumbar spine.
Yeah, it shouldn't be like this.
Yeah, so if the lumbar spine sags and gets like really sway and low, that shape does not lend itself to the up forward motion of the whole back, right? That's what you're talking about, isn't it? Okay, so then we are caught in between those two ideas, that we want to have as much freedom as we may in the front, and we want to not push the lumbar spine down.
So many people say that my horse has such a short back, so I need a small saddle.
Yeah.
And they buy a saddle that is so small and short that they barely have room for their bum.
Yeah.
And that is not a good thing either. But we'll talk more about also how you sit in the saddle, so that you actually, sometimes people can fit in a smaller saddle than they thought they needed.
I tried that a lot, and I got a roomy bum, big sort of,
You started with 18.5.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and now you're fine with 17.
Oh yeah, that's not a problem. Maybe we can look at that one, please.
Yeah. 0360. I was thinking the same.
Yeah. So we were just saying that if you have a saddle that's so short for you that it's really difficult to shape your body into that saddle. Well, as we might see in this picture, this is from a competition. It's just drawn around some person. And we can see here that the saddle is perhaps, way too far back.
But many people do that. This is from an Icelandic horse competition.
Yeah.
And then many people with Icelandic horses, especially in competitions, are placing the saddle in this fashion. And it also, if you get the horse to lower the lumbar spine, the horse will automatically also be able to lift his front legs much more.
Yeah.
That is what we have been talking about also with the dressage horses that are forced, or not necessarily forced,
No.
but they are
Shaped.
they are shaped in a way that they lower their backs and they get this sort of
The sway back.
exaggerated movement in their front legs that is very much sought after.
Yep.
But it's not so very healthy. So we can have a look at that as well. Like, let's look at 0115. This one.
Yep.
Here you can see the same thing.
Yeah, this is the same principle. You can see the rider is can we switch back and forth with this in a little while? I'll tell you when. So what we can see is the legs are a bit forward, the rider's legs. The knee is clamping on a bit, and you can see that in the way how the calf is shaped and how the foot is turned. And that means that the rider is clamping on with the inside of the thigh, so he's kind of squeezing, he, she, I don't know, squeezing, it looks like a he, squeezing onto the saddle. You see, this rider is leaning back quite a bit, right? And that makes the lumbar spine drop a bit.
Yeah, because he's sitting on the cantle.
Yeah, he's sitting on the cantle, and his feet are pushing heels down into the stirrup hard, so that he pushes himself up onto the cantle, and at the same time blocks the movement of the hip joint, like we have talked about 1,000 times. Right? His own hip joint. And if you block the movement of your own hip joint with some force, then you will make it very difficult for the horse to lift the back. Yep. Can you roll back to the 0360, please? All right. So principally, if you don't look at the upper body, you see the legs and the hips are doing the same thing. So the legs are pushing a bit of a water skiing idea, but here with a smaller horse, saddle much further back. If this guy was to lean back onto it, that's too much. The horse won't accept that in some way or other, right? So it's just slight different. But the main issue is how the hips allow the movement, or in these two cases, don't allow the movement. All right.
So the saddle can be too far to the front as well.
Yes. Can we look at that too?
We have, let's see, 5841.
An image this time. So this horse was lunged, and the saddle was a bit loose and came forward. Yeah.
This saddle doesn't actually fit.
No,
No. It's too small.
Yeah.
So we used it just to it's very
like
light.
A lunging girth.
Yeah. It's a very light synthetic saddle that it doesn't bother him, but it was you can see that it doesn't fit.
Yeah. And
it's a little too. It looks like it's a little too much to the front.
Yeah.
But the horses with this horse has a good withers, but the other horses, many horses haven't got a good like place for the saddle to lie securely.
Yeah.
So that often when they move, the saddle will be dragged to the front, or they just skid to the front because the horse is very down in the withers.
Yeah, and you can see here that the saddle is not straight. It's uphill forward. So the front, the cantle, no, the
pommel?
The pommel, I switched them around. The pommel is higher than the cantle.
Yeah.
And you can see that you will be seated in like a what they call a chair seat. So you will be, this saddle, in the way it's lying right now, will make you sit back on your bum with your legs forward, which is the typical chair seat idea, which is what we saw in both of the previous images, or the drawings. All right. Do we have one where the saddle is placed more or less right?
Yeah, let's see. I think perhaps 1331. That's not so bad, is it? I think this is okay.
Doesn't look half bad.
So what is good with this?
From what I can see, this horse seems to move its shoulders freely.
Yeah.
And there is still lots and lots of space behind the saddle for the lumbar spine.
Yeah.
Also, it looks as if the saddle is more or less balanced. It might be tipping slightly forward.
Yeah, a little.
Yes, but it's difficult to say what happens when you sit down in it.
Yeah. So tell people how you can see that it's a little tip to the front.
I can hardly tell myself.
I usually look for the deepest point in the saddle.
Yeah.
Should be sort of in the middle.
In the middle of the saddle.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So when you say middle of the saddle, is the absolute limitations of the saddle front and back you're talking about? Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's a good way to see it. And judging by that, it does look like it might be not in the perfect spot.
But it's okay.
It's all right.
It's not perfect.
No, but this is within what you can. Well, it is likely to be within what happens when you sit on the horse. It's likely to change enough that you don't really know if this is the problem anymore.
Now you're into something that is very interesting, because when we usually prefer a horse that is a saddle that is. Is it called stuffed in English? Like when you put in the wool, it's like formed by the saddle fitting people, in a way that is standard from the factory, and it's supposed to be I like to think that I'm using the standard fitting of the saddle on a horse, and I want to lift the horse up into that saddle. Because that is sort of the normal fitting. So every horse should ideally fit into that type of saddle. Of course, the saddle must be wide enough and not too wide. We saw on this one it's perhaps a little too wide, so it tips in the front. But if the saddle is fitting in all kinds of ways, but they are, if the horse is sway backed, let us look at 9624. You remember the Icelandic horse that we had a look at for some streams ago, and this was the horse in the beginning, before we did the training, and we had this weekend clinic. And we at the end of the clinic, 2 days, the horse was like in 96.75. There.
Quite.
Here is the back is quite normal.
Yeah, much better.
So if we go back to the 96.24, if we ask the saddle fitter to stuff the saddle so that it fits this back.
So it fits this shape of the back, yeah?
Yeah. So this sway-backed type. Then we will sort of fix the back of the horse so that it's more difficult for the horse to do what the change that we did in. And can we see that one again, that 96.75?
So it's straightening out.
So we want the horse to do this.
Yeah. And it's quite logical. If you think slightly logical about this, it's quite easy. You have to think about this. Weight of a horse out in the wild, or out in your paddocks at least, is about 70% or something like that on the front legs. Our goal is to move the weight towards the hind legs. We know that you can't do that in a shape where the horse is really hollow backed. That isn't possible. So you have to make the horse rise up in the back a bit. Thus, if your horse is just standing there looking lazy and hanging through his back, don't make the saddler fit the saddle perfectly to that back. But make the horse lift the back up to something that you know looks like what you can do in your best moments, maybe, in riding, and make that the fit you want.
And sometimes, of course, you can't do that in just 2 days.
No, you can't always do that.
But it's important to take that into consideration what happens when the horse moves? When you ride well, the horse stretches, the back will come up. So you must talk to the saddler and say you have to measure how the horse is moving and how it lifts his back when I ride, and not just when it stands still. So we can have a look at like here, like 1389, when the horse stretches.
Yeah.
And there you can see that that is the same horse that we saw that when the saddle was tipping to the front.
Yeah.
And now it looks more
almost
balanced.
Flat, almost balanced.
And this is, of course, everyone knows that the horse changes. You know, when you train, the back muscles develop. The horse becomes wider, and if it sort of slims a little, or has been sick for a while, the horse is the saddle is too wide. So you need to follow. You need to take care all the time to see.
Yeah, so sort of the main point is that you can't make the saddle fit perfectly. That's impossible because the horse will change his shape as he's moving. So the saddle needs to accommodate for that. It needs to be sort of free enough, flat enough, neutral enough, all those things, that it allows the horse to do different movements.
But if the horse has got really trouble with his back, you might want to use something else for a while. But for instance, a bareback pad.
Yeah, or working in hand.
We have a picture of that as well, 9583.
Bareback pad.
Or right bareback, that is also so nice. This is a nice one. It's really thick wool.
Yep.
It's Mia's.
No, it's Thea's.
Oh, it's Thea's. Yeah, that's true. That's Thea's. And it's not so easy to sit in.
No.
You get the seat is not very comfortable. I think you get a chair seat, don't you? I haven't tried it.
Yeah, you do, but it is comfortable because it's wool, so it's
nice
kind of soft,
and soft.
But you don't get any support from anywhere.
No, and you get perhaps you also get like a chair seat. I would think so.
You do.
Yeah, just like we were talking about when we were talking about bareback riding. So it's something that you can use because it's expensive to buy new saddles all the time.
Yeah, so this is used to get the horse to get used to a saddle.
That is also...
That was the idea here in this particular case. So use a soft kind of paddy thing to allow the horse to get used to having something on his back at all, and then go to a saddle, and then you can move on to a rider in a while.
So we're going to talk a little about different kinds of saddle as well.
Yeah.
But I was thinking perhaps we should have a look at the horse when it moves. A couple of horses when they move. And,
you know what I would like to have a show and point on the saddle we have on one of the saddles on the side here, and then we can go back to the videos of the horses to see if anything of what we talk about actually happens. So you guys can can kill us for it if it doesn't. So if we could switch to the saddle cam.
Hey.
Here's the saddle cam. No, that's just the saddle. That's the cam, really. So the saddle can move about, right? So you have to make sure that it stays in some sort of straight, neutral position. Not too much this way, not too much this way. All right. So these are the important points about what the saddle means. And for me, when I teach, this is the main thing I want to pay attention to. This, the bottom of the saddle, is where your seat bones are supposed to be seated. So your seat bones are about here. A little bit further forward, that's where the stirrup hangs off of. In this point, depending on how much you want to tip it back, but say 8-10 centimeters, something like that maybe. between those 2 points. And the idea of this is that when the horse moves, the saddle will move like this in relation to the ground, not in relation to, this isn't the horse, right? So the saddle, of course, follows the horse, but it moves in relation to the ground like this. And that means that if you can manage to take your weight from this point to here, so i.e. put all the weight in the stirrup without blocking your hips, then you can allow this to move up and through easily. And then when the front part of the saddle needs to come up just a split second later, you can move your weight back to the seat bones and allow the front to come up instead. All right, so we saw in a couple of the drawings, we saw that the rider was seated in such a way that he was pushing forward into the stirrups and pushing on the cantle of the saddle at the same time. This blocks the free movement of the saddle, so it becomes very difficult for the horse to move freely. And this is what we want to accommodate by making the saddle balanced nicely. So the distance here is chosen because most people will be able to move freely with this distance if they have their seat bones in the correct position. Very easy if you get sway backed. If I sway my back, oh, I'm not so good at that, but if I stick my bum out to the best of my abilities like that, my seat bones will point back towards the cantle of the saddle. And that makes that blockage. So I need to move forward and kind of, what do they say? Crowd the pommel. Mm-hmm. So get forward as far as I can on the saddle while maintaining the seat bones in this position.
And lift the front of the...
Lift the front of your pelvis up, yeah, so that your belt doesn't tilt in one way or the other, but kind of stays in a straight line. Mm-hmm.
And then the bottom of your pelvis, will be tilted. Because that is
the front of my pelvis has kind of an upward slope, just like the saddle has. Mm-hmm. So I won't be sitting on pieces of the body that aren't meant for sitting, mm-hmm. And that goes for all sexes, I believe. Mm-hmm. So we should be careful not to put weight on the
symphy.
What's the word for that in English?
I don't know. Symfise is called in Norwegian.
Yeah. So the front of your pelvis, where the pelvis joins together. Yeah. That is not a good weight-bearing surface. The weight-bearing surface is the seat bones that are seated further back.
So when we're talking about the 3-point seat, mm-hmm. it's the 2 seat bones. Yeah. And the front of like that part of the pelvis, that symphyse.
Yeah, I've also heard it spelled out from from the Spanish riding school. They say it's the 2 points, the seat bones, mm-hmm. and the point that the seat bones. Your tailbone is pointing at.
Yeah. But that depends on the saddle, and we're going to talk about that when we look at the classical.
I also think it might depend a little bit on what's typical for your the group of people. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's easier to think about that if it makes you tilt your pelvis in the right way. Yeah. So have a look at that, how it's easier for you to sit mm-hmm. right in the saddle.
Because at the point many people are pressing
moving back
those sensitive points of your body down into the saddle. Mm-hmm. That's not the point. You're supposed to lift that up so that you're just touching. Yeah. You're not pressing things into the saddle and get pain. Yeah. Is there a question? You look so...
There's a question. Could you speak to where the stirrup leather hardware should be placed in the saddle so that the stirrup leather is coming out in the correct place for your leg and seat? Hope that makes sense.
We're going to talk about that. We have a picture. We can tell you that right away. So I have a picture.
What I was just explaining is the sort of the correct half of that, and we're also going to show you another example.
Yeah, let's look at the picture 0355. You can see here that the stirrup leather is placed further back. In many saddles, they do that because they think that it's it's going to help you hold your leg in the back to in a sort of, it's sort of hauling your leg backwards, because they're saying that, you know, as you said, the seat bone is here and the leather is fixed there. So and they think that is strange because the leg is supposed to be like perpendicular under your seat bone.
Yeah.
But it's not like that. It's really important that the stirrup leather is fastened in front of the place where you sit.
Yeah, that is because you need to be able to move the weight of your body to the stirrups when that's needed and to the seat bones when that's needed. That's the only way to make that flowing movement through the back of the horse get through without resistance. That is how you do that.
That is why the posting trot is working so well as well, to lift the horse's back.
Yes.
And you can do that also when you're sitting, with putting a little more weight in the stirrups, and using your seat to let the horse lift and then sit down again. So you can sort of make the horse move the back better. And you're not supposed to let the stirrups decide where your leg is supposed to be. You're using the balance of your muscles in the front and the back of your leg and the seat muscles to place your leg in the right position and to relax there. Yeah. I hope that was a good...
Sounded like a good explanation to me. But of course it was us doing it.
It's our opinion, but it works, and we've been working with this problem a lot. And it's always working, and if we get that to work in a good way with the riders, it's really efficient.
There's another question in.
Hey,
Yeah.
If you're not yet able to have the horse lift the back a lot when riding, will it still be better to have the stuffing fit the norm? And how to convince the saddle fit to do that if they disagree?
You have a difficult question for us today, I feel. That's pretty rough.
It's really
okay, let's stick with the first. Let's stick with the first half of that question. We come into that thing that you can't make it fit perfectly. That's just keep that in mind. Perfect doesn't mean best. Perfect means locked in a position that leads to death. Nothing changes. So what you should do is ask the saddle fitter, getting into the next one, to allow for, I'm hoping, and my horse's back is rising a bit and has come up from this lower position, coming a little bit better up now, and I would like you to shape the saddle so that is easier as time goes by. Something along those lines. So just allow for a little bit more.
Yeah, because it's not a good thing to, if the horse is very swayed back.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have a flat saddle.
No, because it will bridge over flat over a bent back, very, very exaggerated, and that means that the lower back will be even harder pushed down, and it gets worse and worse.
So you could, if it's a good saddle fitter, you could ask him or her to help you find pads that you could help the horse with in the transition phase. There are many ways to do that. So ask that person, and if you're not happy, you could ask another one.
Also, I feel it's a little bit important. This sometimes when I go to the service shop with the car, I feel like an idiot because everything that happens under the hood is magic. They can say absolutely anything, and I'll say, okay, I'll pay, right? But it isn't actually magic. They stuff the saddle with wool. See, wool. You have the same in pads and stuff like that. So if you put a sweater of wool underneath the saddle, you can actually change how the saddle lies in the precisely same way the saddle fitter will do. Well, not precisely, because that leads to... so it's not that, but you get my idea. It isn't magic underneath there. You can actually help out with putting a pad here or a pad there and see how does this work now? How does my horse... Oh, he absolutely hated that. Okay, I won't do that again. Yeah. But stuff like that is actually smart to try and see what happens, and then you're like, that wasn't good, or because that actually worked. That
is actually much better than just doing the thing that you have been told to do, and not actually asking the horse, does this work? Or asking yourself, does this feel like the horse is moving more freely? Mm-hmm. Is it easier to let the horse lift his back now?
Yeah.
So
it's so easy to be tricked by us as teachers, or by your saddle fitter, or by whoever it is, that something can be perfect. It cannot be perfect, and you're allowed to feel. Try it out for yourself. Mm-hmm. Don't go absolutely bonkers. I know you won't, Hege, but
use your head. Yeah.
Use the brain.
And your feeling.
Right. Mm.
Shall we have a look at different kinds of saddles?
We were talking about looking at videos after the...
Oh, yeah, we should do that. Yeah, that's true. Let's have a look at 5809.
Look at me go. I remembered something.
Good boy.
Oh, yeah. That's not going to be easy.
That is the saddle that is a little too small.
Yeah, and maybe slightly too much forward. And it looks to me like sitting on that is going to be a complicated exercise. Mm-hmm. Yeah?
To say it mild, yeah.
Yeah. And he is tense as well.
Yeah?
Yeah. So then you can see that perhaps the shoulder is hampered by the saddle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let us have a look at the 6911. That's much better, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Looks easier to sit on, at least.
Yeah.
The horse is not so much. It's not completely over the back, so the saddle is not. It's not moving. It's not tipping. It's tipping more in walk.
Mm-hmm.
But the cool thing about this saddle is that it hasn't got any knee pads.
No, but let's stick with movement and the balance of the saddle for just a little bit. Mm-hmm. To me, the feeling is that it might be a little bit tipped forward when you're moving. You see that?
Yeah.
You agree on it?
That it's a little too big for him?
It's a little bit tipped forward.
Yeah, but then...
That's what I'm saying. Nothing more.
Yeah, but then it's a little too big because it often tips forward when...
That is a possibility, but I'll continue my thinking.
Yeah.
Because knowing this horse here, he is very short and kind of tight in the neck and around the shoulder girdle.
Yep.
All right. This is an important point. It is never just the shoulders. It is also the thoracic spine.
Yep.
This is important. And you see, when his neck is shortened, the thoracic spine and the cervical spine as well is shortened, or as it were, not in alignment.
Yep.
He'll grow bigger in front if that's freer. Agreed?
Yes.
Wider and higher.
Yep.
What's going to happen to the saddle then?
It's going to be okay.
Okay, so this saddle might actually fit, depending on how the horse is moving.
Yeah, you're right. It's a good example of what we were just talking about.
Yep. Interesting. Cool. We have a question again.
Yep. This is from Lisa. What about the billet straps, where the girth is attached to the saddle? What is the most comfortable place for a horse to have the billet straps coming out of the saddle?
I haven't got any answer to that. I just use the place that it's normally fit on the ordinary dressage saddles.
Yeah, I've seen horses work just fine with one strap coming out in the front of the saddle and one coming out way back in the saddle.
Yeah, true.
I've seen that work, and I've also seen it work with both being attached in the front.
And we have a side saddle that is that has got these two saddle straps that are there, and one
Further
at the back.
Yeah.
And the horses are happy with that as well.
Yeah, I'm not so sure there is any most comfortable place for the horse. That might also change with how the horse moves, but at least I haven't seen that as a problem. I think the greatest reason for having them spread is to keep a saddle more stable. So if you want the saddle, because for instance, if you're riding side saddle, like Hanne was saying, or if you're riding something that, if you're riding, say you're a bullfighter or you're working with cows or whatever it is important that the saddle is stable so that you can use the saddle for extra support when you mess up, which you inevitably will if you're not perfect. For us riding in the sandbox riders, you can have a saddle that allows more freedom, but it is also it won't support you if you mess something up. So that's sort of what I would say is the most important thing about the billet straps, in my opinion.
Yeah. I tend to like the how they build the good brands of saddle. The classical ones, they are quite standard.
Yeah.
And there is a reason why the straps are put where they are.
Yep.
So I really have found that the good quality saddles, they know what they're doing.
It is likely that the both billet straps being put in the front of the saddle is the most gives the most freedom to the back of the horse.
Yeah.
And it is likely that you can just think about it in a simple way. If you attach the regular girth forward and then you strap another strap around the saddle, it'll stay more stable, but it will also not be as free in its movement. It'll be stuck to the horse's back in a manner that makes it it gives less freedom.
But at the same time, you get more control.
Get more control and stability for the rider. So just what you need to do is think about what you need or want for your horse. You can also have several if you've got the cash flow to do that sort of thing. So you can have a saddle that you train your horse with to be as free and balanced and perfect and artistic as possible. And then you can have another saddle that you use for when you go to war or whatever you do with your horse.
Yeah, so perhaps should we take a look at the couple of other saddles that we've have brought with us?
Yeah, we also have a stunt person who is going to be sitting in the saddle and showing where to sit and move a little bit and see how it actually looks like it works. Yeah.
Me with a microphone. Yeah. The first time you're going to see her.
Yeah. We have a question though.
Another question.
Question first.
Ivar is asking, how tight should the girth be? What is too tight?
Shouldn't ask me because I never tighten the saddle.
Let's put it this way: when Hanne rides, she often has the girth completely loose, so there's like a fist of room between the girth and the horse. That happens quite often. She has also ridden a whole clinic, as far as I remember, without a girth on a regular saddle, and the saddle was fine, and so was the rider. These are kind of extreme circumstances. Have the girth tight enough that the saddle doesn't move more too freely, I'd say. So it doesn't just pop around if any little thing happens.
Yeah,
but then I also know that if I'm jousting, I want the last thing I hear before I leave where I get on the horse to be tighten the girth. but then the horse won't be doing that for a long time and not every day, right? This isn't so. I don't know what too tight is, and also a very important point I believe is that it should be tightened to the rider who's going to be in the saddle. If you're 25 kilos, you don't need to tighten it almost at all.
Tighten your own girth.
Yes, if you're 100 kilos and all of it is power, maybe you shouldn't tighten it as hard as you can, because that's stupid. But tighten it enough that any little thing won't put you off. So kilos, no idea. That's my thinking.
So
Oh
now-
no, you put the pillow in?
Yeah.
I didn't want that. I wanted you to suffer.
You bad boy. You.
Yeah.
I'm bad.
Here I give you Mia and Pelle.
Where are you sitting? Are you all right?
I think so.
You feel all right? Hold it.
I want to sit there.
Yeah. That's where you want to sit. That's correct.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so she had to hump forward a little bit, legs hanging down, and you can't see them, but so you see the thigh is pointing a little bit forward, which is fine, and then the calf will be a little bit back, and then somewhere underneath her point of gravity will be her center of gravity will be the ball of her feet or the heels, depending on what she's trying to achieve. Stirrups are all right?
Yep.
All right. Can you pop out of the saddle so I can show one more thing? Yeah, get off.
Yep.
Get off. Scary. And
The
then,
girth is not on.
now we are going to adjust the saddle so it gets a bit worse. There we go. That looks a bit horrible. Can you try that?
Oh, wow, this is horrible. Wow.
Why is it horrible?
Because I don't feel this way.
So it becomes almost impossible to sit right
Yeah.
when the saddle is tilted forward. Can you explain what happens to your body?
I get really tense around my pelvis
Why?
because I need to cling on to it, not to fall forwards.
Okay, so it wants to tilt your pelvis
Yeah,
forwards.
yeah,
All right,
it
right.
Tries to tilt all of me forward.
Of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
starting with the pelvis then.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I'm really just tightening my inner thighs.
Oh yeah, so you're holding on to not
Yeah.
fall forward.
Yeah.
That's interesting. You see that? This is important stuff for you guys back home. If you feel that you're falling forwards like that, you will be clinging on with your hips or holding on with your thighs so that you not fall off. And what happens then if can you do that? You're squeezing on, are you? Did you see her move up? That means that this joint won't be allowed to move freely.
Yep. No, I can't move it.
Yeah, nah.
No.
So what's going to happen instead is that she's going to move there in the move around there. That's
Yeah,
where she's going to move, right?
right.
Like that instead. So hip joint doesn't really move, but the lower back does. Right, cool. Thank you very much. I'll hold the saddle. Not for any reason at all. Thank you very much. Do you want to see the other saddles then?
Yeah, we can show the different kinds of saddles because if you don't take that away, because we're going to show that as well.
You want to show several at the same time?
Yeah, I don't think we have room for all of them at the same time, but if we put them here. Yeah, have a look at this, because this is
I think we can fit it on, or do you want to hold it?
yeah, I want to show it here. Because this is a treeless saddle. And many people like a treeless saddle, and we could talk more about that. You can see it's...
Can I get dressed, or do you want me to go?
It's okay. Get dressed.
You can see here that it's got a leather tree. It's elastic in another way than the other saddle.
Yep.
But you can see the seat, and I think we need to put it on the stand, perhaps, to see that the seat is different than the one that you got there, because
So we see this
the
one.
twist is different.
Yes, this is very narrow in the twist in the front here, and this one is quite a lot wider in the front.
And it's flatter.
And it's way, way flatter in that whole area, while this one has a pretty good curve to the whole way. So what happens here is that in this one, there is no support until there's a lot of support. So you're seated on your seat bones, right? Those are balancing you. But then you need to be balanced.
Yeah, because you
properly
can't support yourself on the front of the bottom of the pelvis.
No, that you can't do, and also you can't support yourself with your buttocks to any great degree, right?
No, perhaps, yeah, that's true.
So, because they will be airborne up here, while on this saddle they will push back towards the cantle, as we saw in one of those images. So this one is freer until you have to be supported by either the front or the back. But it's also much more difficult. Freer here means you are free to balance perfectly. Good luck with that. It's not bad. It's just different, right? It is for different
So
purposes.
3-point seat is different in this more classical saddle, or it's not classical. It's more like
This is Baroque or school saddle or something to that.
Yeah, it's there are many names for this, but it's a more old-fashioned saddle type for those who haven't seen it before. And the seat is also a little similar to a Western saddle. We haven't got any Western saddles here at our place, but we have, of course, tried that as well. But we haven't got that much experience with it.
No. So the main point with the Western saddle is that it spreads the weight of you over a larger area of the horse.
Yeah, but
that is also the same with a lot of like combat horses and stuff, combat saddles and stuff like that. Yeah. They spread the weight over a greater area.
But the seat, the place where you're sitting, is very important for the rider and how to communicate with the horse.
Yeah. So what happens here? What I'm trying to say, like explained in a different manner, is that your seat bones are left to their own device.
Yeah.
And there is no gradual increasement of push on the rear cantle until you're actually on the cantle.
Yeah.
On the regular dressage type, it's more and more and more and more pressure. Because it's important to understand that the distance here from the pads to the top where you can exert force, they make a lever that makes you stronger to push. So up here, the height difference is perhaps even bigger in this one than here. So this has more possibility to do a little bit more weight to the back or a lot more, while this one is much less so. It's more difficult to put your butt in the right place as well in this saddle. So these saddles are very, very demanding of the rider, but they give a lot of freedom for the horse. Yeah,
and they also, we were talking about them when you are transitioning from the horse's very swayed back to training them to lift his back. It might be a good idea to have a treeless saddle because it's more giving for the horse's back. But it's the difficult thing about a saddle like that. It's less precise.
Yes,
it's just like trying to pick up peas with boxing gloves. You know. It's you can't feel the horse in the same way.
Yeah. I have one more type. Do you want me to bring that one out too?
Yeah, I was thinking because there you got a really strong cantle.
Yep.
We're talking about the saddle that we're using for like combat riding. Pelle is doing jousting, and this is my saddle, so I'm doing like archery when my health is allowing. This is a Portuguese bullfighter saddle.
We'll have a look underneath.
Yeah.
This is a traditional kind of both bullfighting and working equitation type saddle. It's got a tree
Yeah.
It's hard. It's got like big soft thingies to support the horse, support your weight on the horse.
And this is also this also has a lot of similarities with the Western saddle.
Yeah, with the slightly bigger
carrying surface.
Surface. Yes.
Yeah, and also the seat where you sit.
Yeah, but you can see still that the billet leathers come out about here. So a little bit spread, a little bit back. The stirrup is attached there.
Yeah.
Makes a slightly different angle. So with the regular dressage saddle, it's attached higher compared to where you're seated. That makes a difference for how you move. These saddles kind of demand that you have a very good seat and very well schooled hips. These saddles do, because if they don't, they will force you to sit with your bum out really bad.
But this cantle, if you press on that cantle, it really either collects a horse or pushes the back of the horse down.
Yeah.
So it's not a saddle for a young horse that is not strong enough, usually.
No.
And it's difficult to ride a posting trot in it.
Yeah. It is still possible, though, to use this horse to school a fairly young horse from so that you are safer.
Yeah, true.
If you're in a hurry, some people use that because they're a bit safer, you have a bit more support front and back, and if you know how much you can take, that can be an alright way to do it for a time or two. A saddle won't kill a horse in one ride.
No, true.
Alright.
So we talk about the pads, knee pads and stuff?
We can do that.
Because that is, it's important to know that the knee pads can be troubling for you. Yeah. Especially when your hip joints are not flexible enough.
Yeah, like we just said about the Portuguese saddle, the correct seat demands that you have quite a lot of freedom in the movement in your hip joints. And if you don't already have a very well schooled seat, your saddle should probably have very, very narrow knee pads, if any, and as like a gentle slope in the cantle as possible. Because that will give you much more freedom to do your built-in errors, so you won't affect the horse as much with your
perhaps not everybody understands why the knee pads are making trouble. It's because many people say the knee pads are sort of forcing your knee back, and then your leg comes in a good position. But the most important thing is that your hip joint and your seat bones are in the right position. And if you're not flexible enough in your hip flexors, in your hip, if you press the knee backwards, your back will become sway back, because the pelvis, this is the femur, the thigh bone, and this is the hip joint is here and the pelvis is here. If you press, if this joint is not flexible, you press the knee backwards, and then the pelvis will follow. Yeah. And then the back will become sway back. Yeah. And then it's almost impossible to sit and move in a good way in the saddle. Yeah. So if you're thinking of buying a new saddle and you have trouble with the seat and with a hip joint, as we have shown you in earlier streams, then it's a good thing to find a saddle without very big knee pads, or knee pads that could be taken off. Yep. Because you have like many saddles are now with adjustable pads. Yeah. So make it easier for yourself. Do not think that the horse will be able to change you
without you also changing the horse to some degree in that same way. So if you want the horse to open your hip joints up, what's going is like, if you, in other words, if you get a really big knee pads and a really high cantle, and you try to use the saddle and the horse to kind of force your hips to open, what's going to happen is, to some degree, maybe you can force your hips just slightly more open, but it's more likely that you will be more sway backed and the horse will also be more sway backed. So don't take that quick solution. Go and stretch your hips as usual, and then get back to riding in a saddle that allows your faults to be present without you kind of influencing the horse too much in a bad direction.
Yeah, start with the pelvis in the correct perpendicular position, and with the movable hip joints, as much movable as possible, and then you try to balance and move with that correct.
Yep.
And then don't care as much as about where your legs are, and your shoulders might be a little like this and tense and stuff, but concentrate on the hip joint and the pelvis, and then the good movement will spread upwards and spread downwards, and the saddle should allow you to do that. Saddle should allow you to be imperfect in your leg and your shoulders, but to be balanced and relaxed and movable in your pelvis and your hip joint.
Would you say that stability spreads from the core outwards?
Oh, that was a Dune quote. Good job.
Thank you.
Yes.
So
we have some other pictures, but I think that we have covered what we wanted to.
Yeah.
Don't you think so?
I have.
If there is any questions, then I think we can just... Oh.
That's fun. Oh, I can't believe I'm here for a live video with you all. I've been immersing myself in all of your videos. My family thinks I have left them and joined the Norwegian family. You all are a gift.
Thank you.
Thank you. And welcome really to our family.
Well. Welcome.
We will help out to the best of our abilities,
Yeah.
as per usual. Next time, we will probably be back with some riding, some working in hand, or some other
the snow.
stuff. In the snow.
In the Norwegian
yeah.
snow.
In the proper snowy winter. It's been creaky cold lately, so...
But remember that we, as we did now, we love getting questions, and so give us ideas.
Yeah, keep asking on this one too.
Yeah.
Just keep firing questions down there, and we'll see if we can get back to you and answer them to the best of our abilities. So, of course, since this is our first outing on YouTube Live, we will take this opportunity to ask everyone who has been watching, please subscribe to our little channel. It's really cute and we like begging. And leave a like or a dislike if you don't like the video. They all will give us more clicks later on. So it's all good stuff for us. So that's what we want to. From now on, we'll be here on YouTube, and we will keep our live stream every fortnight as we have. And maybe we'll drip some more stuff on you as well. Thank you very much for following us tonight. It's been a pleasure.